Have you ever noticed how talking about other people's lives can be so irresistible? It's like that treat you know you shouldn't eat, but you just can't help yourself. Gossip has this addictive effect, and the scariest part is that most of the time, we don't even realize we're sinning. The Bible is clear about the dangers of gossip and slander, but even so, we keep practicing this habit like it's no big deal. Do we really understand how serious this is? Do we know the damage we can cause with just a few words? Today, we're diving into this topic to understand why gossiping is such a dangerous sin, yet so seductive at the same time. We'll talk about how gossip sneaks into our relationships, destroys friendships, corrodes churches, and distances us from God. Plus, we'll explore why we get so much pleasure from spreading information about others and how we can fight this sinful tendency within us. If you've ever caught yourself talking about someone unnecessarily, this video is for you. Talking badly about others has never been easier. With the internet and social media, the court of public opinion is just a click away. And the worst part? We're all ready to judge, condemn, and spread someone else's mistakes without even thinking about the consequences. But should we really act this way? What does God's word teach us about this kind of behavior? Can we keep gossiping without paying a high price for it? Throughout this video, we'll explore real-life stories and biblical lessons that show the destructive impact of gossip. We'll examine the signs that we're becoming slanderers without realizing it and learn strategies to abandon this sin. After all, how can we call ourselves Christians if we feed a culture of discord and judgment instead of love and reconciliation? Stick with me until the end of this video because what you're about to hear might change the way you communicate forever. To better understand how gossip can be devastating, I want to tell you a real story. Imagine a respected archbishop, a renowned religious figure, who, while trying to defend a Christian principle, finds himself in the middle of a fabricated scandal. That's exactly what happened to Archbishop Antonio dos Santos Cabral. He criticized a newspaper for making a disrespectful joke about the image of Mary. In response, Assis Chateaubriand, a media mogul, published an absurd slander about him. He claimed that the archbishop had raped his own sister. The most absurd part is that this lie could have been debunked immediately since the archbishop was an only child. But Chateaubriand, furious, shot back, "That's for him to prove." And just like that, a lie, thrown out irresponsibly, tarnished the reputation of an innocent man. This episode teaches us that slander can destroy lives as quickly as a flame consumes a piece of paper. This case reminds us of how words can be used as weapons. With just one unfounded accusation, a man's honor was called into question. Gossip works like this. It doesn't need proof, it doesn't need logic, it just needs someone willing to believe it. And most of the time, people don't question it. They simply accept it and pass it on, making the damage even worse. But what about when we're the ones hearing gossip? Are we just spectators, or are we participating in the destruction of someone's reputation? Do we realize how cruel we can be by spreading information we don't even know is true? Think about it. Every time you say something about someone without knowing the facts, you could be the Chateaubriand in someone else's story. The lesson is clear. Before you open your mouth to talk about someone, think about the impact your words will have. Are you helping or destroying? Would you want someone to do that to you? Have you ever wondered why gossiping feels so good? Why do we enjoy knowing about other people's lives so much? The answer is simple. Gossip makes us feel superior. When we talk badly about someone, we automatically create the illusion that we're better than that person. It's a cheap and destructive self-affirmation mechanism. The Bible has already warned us about this. In Proverbs 26:22, we read that the words of a gossip are like tasty morsels. Yes, gossiping is a feast for the ego. When we talk about others' flaws and mistakes, we feel a certain internal relief. After all, if someone else is messing up, maybe our own mistakes seem smaller. It's a dangerous psychological game that pulls us away from humility and plunges us into pride. It's no wonder that gossip is often associated with other sins, like envy, malice, and even hatred. Moreover, gossip disguises itself as concern. How many times have we heard phrases like, "I'm only telling you this because I care," or "This needs to be said for the good of the church"? Deep down, we know the real intention isn't to help, but to feed a sense of self-righteousness. And that's why we need to be vigilant. Are we really concerned about others' well-being, or are we just seeking a perverse pleasure in seeing someone fall? The truth is, gossip doesn't make anyone better. it destroys. While we delight in others' failures, we're neglecting to look at our own. Gossip pulls us away from mercy and compassion, feelings we should be cultivating. Jesus taught us to look at our own sins before pointing out others. If we truly want to be faithful Christians, we need to abandon this poisonous habit. But how do we do that? How do we resist the temptation to spread information that doesn't belong to us? How do we train our ears and mouths to reject gossip? The Bible leaves no room for doubt. Gossip and slander are serious sins. From the Old Testament to Jesus' teachings, we find clear warnings about the danger of misusing words. One of the most direct passages on the topic is Proverbs 26:20, which says, "Without wood a fire goes out, and without a gossip, conflict ceases." This verse teaches us that gossip fuels conflicts. Where there's gossip, there's discord. Where there's slander, there's division. Another powerful passage is James 4:11-12. Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against a brother or sister or judges them speaks against the law and judges it. There is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy. But you, who are you to judge your neighbor? This verse shows that every time we gossip, we're assuming a role that belongs only to God, the role of judge. Who gave us the authority to condemn others with our words? When we speak badly about someone, we're judging them as if we're superior, forgetting that we're also sinners. Additionally, Jesus teaches us in Matthew 18:15-17 a fundamental principle about dealing with others' mistakes. If we see something wrong in someone, we should speak directly to that person in private. If they don't listen, then we can seek help from a small group to resolve the situation. Only as a last resort, when there's a complete refusal to change, should the issue be brought to the community. In other words, the Bible doesn't give us permission to go around spreading information about others' sins and failures. Gossip is never the solution. Often, we use the excuse that we're just telling the truth. But the issue isn't just about truth or lies. Gossip can be based on real facts and still be a sin. If the words coming out of our mouths don't build up, but tear down, we're failing as followers of Christ. The challenge is big but necessary. Before you talk about someone, ask yourself, does this glorify God? Does this build or destroy? If the answer is no, the best choice is silence. The truth is we've all failed in this area at some point. But the good news is we can change. We can choose a better path where our words serve to edify, not to hurt. In the next chapter, we'll explore how gossip destroys relationships and why we need to be very careful with what we say. Picture a church divided by a rumor, a friendship destroyed by a nasty comment, a toxic work environment where people feel unsafe because they know that as soon as they leave the room, they'll be the next topic of conversation. Gossip isn't harmless. It eats away at bonds, destroys trust, and sows discord. Gossip is a silent but deadly weapon. Unlike an open argument, where there's room for defense and dialogue, gossip operates in the shadows. It spreads doubt, creates assumptions, and poisons relationships bit by bit. Often a single twisted word can cause wounds that never heal. How many friendships have been ruined because someone misinterpreted a phrase and, instead of clarifying, chose to spread their version of the story? In churches, gossip is an even more dangerous poison. Small, malicious comments can create deep divisions within the body of Christ. If instead of encouraging and strengthening one another, we spend our days talking about each other's flaws and mistakes, we're working against God's kingdom. Instead of uniting, we're dividing. Instead of healing, we're hurting. In the family environment, gossip also wreaks havoc. When one relative badmouths another, when a sibling spreads the other's secrets, it creates an atmosphere of distrust and resentment. Words can build or destroy homes. What are we choosing to do with ours? If we want healthy relationships and a life that honors God, we need to take a firm stand against gossip. We must be promoters of peace, not discord. And to do that, it's essential to learn how to resist the temptation to spread rumors and slander. But how can we do that? In the next chapter, we'll talk about strategies to combat the culture of gossip. The good news is that we can change. We can learn to resist gossip, and more than that, help create a culture where words are used to build up, not tear down. The first step is to recognize that gossip isn't just a bad habit. It's a serious sin. We can't treat it as something harmless or inevitable. If we want to live according to biblical principles, we need to commit to eliminating gossip from our lives. A powerful strategy is to filter what we say. Before sharing any information about someone else, ask yourself, is this necessary? Does this build up? Does this glorify God? If the answer is no, then silence is the best option. A lot of gossip would be avoided if we just took a moment to reflect before opening our mouths. Another essential attitude is to cut gossip off as soon as we hear it. If someone starts bad-mouthing another person to you, don't fuel the conversation. Change the subject or ask, have you talked to that person directly about this? That simple question can expose the gossip and stop it from spreading. If everyone acted like this, the culture of gossip would lose its power quickly. We should also remember that in many cases, gossip comes from wounded hearts. When someone speaks ill of another person, they're often projecting their own pain and insecurities. That's why we should respond with grace and compassion, helping our brothers and sisters find healing for their wounds, instead of encouraging a destructive cycle of negative words. Finally, we must commit to speaking words of life. The Bible calls us to use our words to build up, encourage, and bring healing. If we want to live in a way that pleases God, we need to transform our speech. And that starts now, with small daily choices. We've reached the end of this video, and I want to leave you with a challenge. Starting today, decide to use your words to build up, not tear down. Gossip may be a common sin, but it doesn't have to be inevitable. You have the power to change the way you communicate and create a positive impact around you. Remember that what we say reveals what's in our hearts. If our words are full of malice, it means something is wrong inside us. But if we seek God and ask Him to transform our hearts, our words will change too. Choose to be an agent of peace, not discord. If this video helped you, share it with your friends and spread this message. Let's fight together against the culture of gossip and build an environment where words are used for good. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and leave a comment telling us what you thought of this video. Let's keep this conversation going in the comments. God bless you, and see you in the next video.